Acting issues. I am not going to talk here about the political issues that face actors every day, like racism or sexism. Those are very real and important issues, but they affect the business side of acting, and they need to be addressed separately. What I am going to talk about is what keeps an actor from relating, reacting, or doing while he or she performs. Those three words, relating, reacting, and doing, are the chief areas in an actor's job. They are what I have been talking about throughout this book. If, for any reason, an actor can't do any of these three things, they have an acting issue. Let me go through each of them and give you a better feel for what they are and how to deal with them. Relating issues. In psychology, what makes a person a sociopath is their inability to relate to another person. They can only see the world according to their own needs and wants. They have no empathy or understanding of the harm or good that their actions cause. A sociopath is a very extreme example of an acting issue as it applies to relating. Since the very first thing that an actor has to do is to relate to others, you might see why I bring this up. Actors are human beings, just like the characters that they portray. They have basic personalities, and they have all made decisions about their lives based on the events of their past. While it is unlikely that any one actor is a sociopath, it is likely that events in an actor's life have made them resistant to relating to others in the wide open way that an actor needs to relate. The funny thing about this is that while an actor needs to be uninhibited in their ability to relate in the imaginary world of the story, this isn't the best way to lead one's life in the real world. In the real world, it is necessary to limit the relatedness that you have to others. It is actually a survival ability to be able to disconnect from others, to close off, and to not feel. But the survival value of this ability can become habitual, depending on the way that the individual was raised. In fact, all people have this issue to some extent, no matter whether they grew up in a nice home or a dysfunctional one. So the actor issue here is that the socialization process that they go through growing up creates a fundamental disconnection between them and the people around them. One of the reasons that the first year of this type of training is spent almost entirely in one exercise, the repetition exercise, is that this exercise teaches the person to focus outside of themselves. This focusing outside of oneself reconnects the actor to others and sharpens their ability to relate. So the first reason that an actor doesn't connect to others is that their socialization has taught them not to. But there is another reason that an actor will not find it easy to connect. Part of the reason that we block off our connection to others is that if we do not block ourselves off, we become vulnerable to exposure and possible harm. So, events in our lives have taught us that to be exposed is to open ourselves to harm. Everyone, if they have been living for any time at all, has had events that have caused them harm. They have made decisions about these events, and they have learned to be cautious. This caution, learned in childhood, can be one of the major obstacles that an actor has to overcome. I don't want to be hurt again, equates to, I will not allow myself to be affected by others. This disconnection, by closing off, is at the most fundamental level. So, the two major acting issues associated with relating are socialized disconnection and caution created in vulnerability. Luckily enough, there are solutions to these two problems. Training is the first solution. In the course of training, the actor learns that they can take their attention off of themselves. That focusing it firmly on the other person will re-establish the ability to connect with others over a period of time. And the more connected they are, the more responsive they will be. And importantly, for an actor, the more connected they are, the more the audience will connect to them and be moved by what they do. The second solution takes us back to the origins of acting. If you remember my little history lesson about the two types of acting, you will remember that acting originated as a means of portraying the gods, or of telling the lessons that the gods wanted us to learn. It originated out of the act of worshipping. Thus the acting process itself was a form of a ritual worship, and involved a ritual space. This ritual space is what I would like to focus on for a moment. Modern-day acting has little to do with the worship of gods in religion. However, the use of a ritual space or a sacred space is still very much alive, and in fact, it is necessary to good acting. Nowadays we call this ritual space the imaginary world. Acting is an art form that takes place entirely within the realm of the imaginary world, and this world is the actor's ritual space. An actor enters this space every time that they begin to act and leave it only when they have finished the scene, or the play, or the take. It is the actor's creative safe space, their playground of the spirit. And this imaginary world is the solution to the second of the problems that actors have in relating to others. Because this imaginary world allows the actor to give themselves over freely to the needs of acting, knowing that nothing that they will do while acting is real. They can be as vulnerable as the story dictates. They can laugh, cry, and feel any feeling that is necessary without it being in any way real, without it having consequences in their real life. Their only limit is their courage to give themselves over to this world and live it fully. And that brings us to the second area where acting issues can arise. The problems of socialization and invulnerability have a devastating effect on a person's ability to allow the events or people to affect them. But while they are the source of our next acting issue, they are not the issue itself. Reacting issues. People sometimes don't feel things because over the years of living they have had to stifle their natural responses to events. They have developed habits of either ignoring their feelings or suppressing them. It has become second nature for them not to feel anything. In extreme cases, where the trauma that caused this was severe and prolonged, they will forget entirely that the events took place. They sometimes even split themselves into separate people as a way of coping. The result of all this is that they will be frightened of even the simplest and most innocent of feelings. If those feelings remind them, even unconsciously, of the events that they have forgotten, instead of disconnecting from others, as in the first of our issues, habit, or survival, makes them disconnect from themselves. They become a form of zombie and are no longer living fully, because they can no longer feel their own life. In the worst cases, as the habit of denial becomes ingrained, they increasingly deny their own feelings. If this goes far enough, they can become self-destructive or at the least self-defeating. While most people never get to this drastic state, most people have this to some small degree. This affects the actor by making them insecure and unsure about what they are feeling, or even if they are feeling anything at all. They are in a fog about what feelings are, or how to generate them. They can become resistant to being taught, because the teaching asks them to approach feelings that they deny. They are frightened to feel anything, because it might start a landslide of feelings that the person can't control. Often they will go to great lengths to maintain control of themselves. They will also try to control the situations they are in, as a way of keeping other actors from affecting them and making them feel. They will manipulate and do outrageous things to others, just so they can avoid having to feel. While few actors are as extremely repressed as this, the socialization process itself places many checks on the expression of feelings. Checks which become ingrained over a period of time. Checks that the actor needs to be able to remove in order to act and feel freely in the acting space. The repetition exercise is designed to overcome this issue, as well as issues about relating. Placing your attention outside of yourself is taking your attention off of yourself. Do this long enough and the feelings you have will begin to emerge. With practice and encouragement from the instructor, anyone can free their feelings to the level that they need to act well. Women are generally perceived to have a better time of it with this issue than men, because our society allows them a greater social range of feelings. But a word of caution to women is in order. Women's socialization is just as strict as men's socialization, perhaps even more so. This can turn their ability to have feelings into a form of a facade, and it limits them to having only the right kind of womanly feelings. This facade can hide as great a lack of feelings as any that men are supposed to have. They may cry or sympathize a great deal, but this shouldn't be confused with a genuine response to a situation. One of the biggest indicators of this is the response that women have to situations that create anger. I have seen many women stifle their angry response to these situations because that response doesn't fit the role that they are supposed to play in society. Often they will turn their anger into hurt or some other acceptable womanly emotion. This suppression of feelings might be good for society, doubtful, but it is devastating to the actress who needs to fully express her anger. Add this up over a period of time, and you get a person who reacts inappropriately to any situation involving anger. The reverse is true for men. They are taught that anger is the only emotion they can have. So, both men and women get caught up in the roles that society assigns them in regard to feelings. Each of them find their feelings limited by these roles when they try to act. But while most people will agree that men need to learn to use their feelings more, there is a cultural trap for women in the role assignment of the feeling one. Because women's feelings are as strictly bound as men's feelings are, but they think that their feelings are appropriate, when in fact they are not. The truth of the matter is that both men and women have to be able to embrace what would normally be considered unacceptable feelings for their gender. Their abilities as actors will be curtailed to the extent that they avoid the feelings that are not assigned to them by society. A woman who avoids anger and the more violent emotions is just as restricted as the man who avoids his pain or the gentler emotions of nurturing. The realm of feelings is vast and includes all the negative as well as the positive feelings for every person. An actor, man or woman, needs to have all these feelings freely available for their use. There is a rule of thumb about emotions and feelings. If you block off any part of any feeling, you block off all of your ability to feel, to some degree. This seems to be because the only way to stop a feeling is to turn off the mechanism of feeling itself. You can't do that for one feeling alone. So if you can't love, you can't hate, and if you can't hate, you can't love. While the repetition exercise is designed to help the emerging actor to learn their feelings, sometimes this isn't enough. This may be especially so with men who strongly identify with the dominant leadership role. So I am going to give you an exercise that I didn't include earlier. The biggest symptom of an inability to feel is the efforts of an actor to force control over what goes on around them. The following exercise will help both men and women who have this issue. This exercise is fairly simple. You make a blindfold from anything handy. The only rule is that you can't see anything at all when it is on. Then you go for a walk around the block blindfolded, being led by your exercise partner. You and your partner trade off being leader and led. You do this exercise over a period of several weeks, or until you have gotten past the uncomfortable stage to relaxation, and until the feelings of panic and insecurity turn to trust. It is important to do the exercise until it reaches this point of relaxation, because this point is the body's way of letting you know that it has got the message. What this exercise is designed to do is to give you an emotional area, like your imaginary acting world, where you can let go of the control and let what happens, happen. By teaching the body that it can go safely past the fears and insecurities of being led around blindfolded, you can give it a space to allow other feelings to emerge. Needless to say, don't play tricks on your partner, or take advantage of the situation in any way. This will have the obvious effect of keeping them from trusting, which is the whole point of this exercise. I will talk more about the professional ethics that actors should have with each other later, but for now just assume that it will only harm the exercise to play tricks or take advantage. This exercise leads us to our last area of issues. Doing issues. The perceived advantage of women in the area of feelings is balanced by the perceived advantage of men to do things. And in fact, men are always doing things, but for men, doing can be as much of a trap as feeling is for women. While it is true that men are trained from an early age to do things, as women are to feel things, it is not true that the solution to every acting problem is either in the doing or in the feeling. Doing is very important, but men's ways of doing things are as circumscribed as women's ways of feeling are. Often men will force the doingness of a situation into totally inappropriate ways for that situation, ways that match what they have been taught are the approved male way of doing things. This can cause them to miss the real problem involved in the doingness of acting. The real task of an actor is to apply the action or doing that fits the situation that they are in at this moment. It is not to force the situation to fit the way of doing that is easiest for them. The biggest thing that stands in the way of this happening is the actor's own insecurities. This applies to both men and women. If you don't know how you feel about something, you are not going to know what you want. And you are going to feel insecure about doing anything if you don't know what you want. This insecurity will create the real block to doing, the lack of assertion. Assertion is the ability to know what you want, and directly, openly, go after that desire. To will yourself to action with the firm knowledge that what you are doing is right and fits within your nature. It is the foundation of all doing. It is the belief that you have a right to the things that you want. It is the belief that your desires and opinions are valid, and that you can express them freely. It is the knowledge that you are a valuable human being with the right to be heard. It is the form of shamelessness that comes with the knowledge that you have rights. The simplest of rights is your right to act, to do. Conforming to the rules, or conventions, while possibly making for a better society as a whole, trains the individual to set aside their own opinion and desires, to go along with the flow. Going along with the flow can become habit. And this habit can cause an actor not to assert themselves. They don't learn their lines as well as they should. They mumble when they need to speak clearly. They don't suggest anything to help define the role. They undercut and underrate all their actions. They take a more acceptable feeling or doing than what the story calls for. They don't invest themselves or commit themselves fully to anything that they do. In short, they hide. They hide because what they have learned is that what they love, what they feel is right, isn't acceptable to the people in their society. The big myth is that men assert themselves more than women. While this is true in a limited specific sense, as far as acting is concerned, men are the victims of an assertion just as much as women. This is because our society views men's aggressiveness as assertion. The real confusion comes from the idea that assertion equals aggression. It does not. Men are caught up in the trap that if they are aggressive, they are asserting. Go back and look at the paragraph where I define assertion. Think about it. Assertion applies more broadly than just aggressiveness. Or to put it another way, aggression is only one type of assertion, one of millions. Yet men are generally allowed only this one type. I am being harsh here, but it is not to men and women. I am being harsh to the roles that they have to play in our society. These roles add a layer of craziness to an actor's life and inhibit their work. Frankly, men have just as deep of a well of feelings as women, and women have as great of an ability to do as men. I see this every day, everywhere. But our society tells us this isn't so, and foolishly we blind ourselves by believing this. The superlative exercise is designed to force the actor to commit themselves to a particular action or a particular way of doing, and is excellent, over a period of time, in helping with assertion. Both men and women should do this exercise as often as they can, if assertion is a problem for them. Finally, I will throw in another history lesson for you, and warn you that I am being wildly general here. In the early part of Christian history, when it was first starting out, the Roman and Greek actors and writers of that time were merciless in their satires about this new religion. It was the big joke of its time. The church was not thrilled by this. When it came into political power in Justinian times, about 400 AD, it outlawed public performances of all sorts. For nearly 800 years, under the Christians, public performances were illegal and actors were looked on as the dogs of society. It wasn't until the church needed a way to communicate the Bible to illiterates that they started allowing any form of public performances. These were the mystery plays, and for nearly 200 years public performances were primarily church-related. It wasn't until the middle class, made up of mostly traders, grew to political power, that the rebirth of acting performances, away from the church, were allowed on any scale. It was the middle and lower classes that were the first audiences for this new theater. Thus the respectability of acting as a profession, and theater as a whole, was looked on as being of the lower classes. This bit of history is the foundation for a lot of bad attitudes towards actors that exists today. What does this mean for people in this profession? It means that being an actor is looked on as being unessential, unproductive and a frivolous part of society. That no serious person would be an actor. Anyone who would want to be an actor is obviously in some way a creature that is not right. In other words, all actors are crazy. This is a guilt trip of epic proportions, and every actor is made to feel guilty by this, even if they have a healthy personality. When you add the above guilt trip that our society puts on the shoulders of anyone who is drawn to this profession into the regular socialization process, you end up with a heaping pile of inhibitions. Be forewarned. And learn how to get past this pile of inhibitions. General notes. One thing that I want to say, towards all of the actors' issues that I have talked about, is that usually, when you have a particular type of issue, it will be with you for a long while. Actors' issues stem from the basic personality of an actor, how they were raised, and the lessons that life has given them. People's basic personalities are formed at an early age, and are developed over a long period of time. Once it is fully formed, people rarely change their basic personalities. They don't, because that is who they are. They only alter them when they need to, or when they have to, or when life forces them to. What this means is that it will take time to change any acting issue that you have. What this also means is that you will have to take your issues into account when you are setting up your working routine. You will have to compensate for them as a part of that routine. For example, if you have an assertion issue, you will have to work harder on that area than you would if you have a relating issue. You will need to make assertion a part of your preparation for every role until you get good enough at it that you no longer have a problem with it. Another thing about issues in general is that they are not the kiss of death that you might think they are. Every actor has one or more of them, to a greater or lesser degree. No one is immune to them and no one is left out. What matters here is what you do with them. If you let them run your acting life, they will kill any chance you have. If you are aware of them and take them firmly in hand, they can turn into an asset and help you create your finest performances. It is up to you. But all issues that I have discussed eventually come down to our old friends fear and trust. Without the trust that the exercises are designed to give you, you will always have a greater fear level as an actor. Many talented actors give up acting because of the stress caused by fear, coupled with the lack of self-trust. Many more are driven to drink and drugs. The truth of the matter is that when you stand on stage, or in front of the camera, you are exposing yourself. This is an unnatural thing for a human being to do. It goes against all the laws of survival that we have learned in the millions of years that we have been growing as a species. Exposure can equal death, destruction, or harm. Our bodies know this in a primal way. The act of exposing creates tension, even in the best trained actor. Novice actors, who don't yet understand this, can drive themselves buggy. They feel this exposure and think that there is something wrong. They mistakenly assign this wrongness to their acting, when in fact they are doing good work. Any actor, without a regular working method, will likewise find themselves beset with the worry, can I do it again? This worry has the same result, stress. Both these worries have the same cure, training and technique. Training and technique are the best way to bring this lizard brain fear under control and have it work for you. The more you understand what is happening, and the more you are prepared for your work, the better your performance will be. That is the exact reason that rehearsals exist. You will trust yourself and your abilities more, because you have experienced what you are doing before, and have grown comfortable with it. Acting is the art of appearing to be spontaneously living the events. This takes a great deal of hard work to prepare for and to accomplish well. Finally, I hope that you have a greater understanding of the issues that can cause you as an actor to not do well in your performance. I want to say one thing before I move on. Acting is not therapy. It can help you understand your life and focus you on living in the moment. But acting will not help you overcome a deep-seated problem. For that, you need the professional help of a psychologist. If you run across an acting problem that you think might be caused by something deep in your basic personality, and you need help dealing with it, get help. I can't stress this to you enough. The stigma about getting psychological help has all but disappeared in the last 3 decades. Our understanding of our own minds and what they need to be healthy has also grown immensely in that time. There are psychologists who specialize in problems that creative people go through. There are also many self-help books and groups that can help you understand the workings of your mind and the minds of the characters that you play. Allow yourself to have this help if you need it. I will only enhance your ability to act I know this because I was in therapy once at a time in my life when the problems created in me by being an actor almost overwhelmed me. I have also studied psychology, especially books on the subject of relationship psychology. The help I got in therapy, and from the books that I have read, made it possible for me to go on, and the result of that is the book that you are reading now, and a life filled with creativity. Remember this, while your problems are unique to you, they are not unique to humankind. Others have had them and will again in the future. There is knowledge, and there is help if you need it. So get that help. Thanks for watching.